Hello, I'm Miss Timblin, Head of English at Litcham School. This video presentation will give you some idea of the work you will cover for both your English language and your English literature GCSE courses for the next 2 years. I've also asked a few Year 11s to give you their views on the course too. Firstly, let me show you the new block classrooms. Some classrooms you may already know. Some may be new to you. As you can see, this is the new block corridor with English classrooms either side, and you'll also see the drama studio, which is an English classroom. This is the doors and the outside of the building. Room 30, this is my room. Nice and spacious, quite light. Room 28, Mr. Palmer's room. Room 27, this is Miss Bateman's room. Room 29, this is Miss Byford's room. The drama studio, which is Mr. Cunningham's room, also used for drama. So, let's have a look at the English GCSE. This is divided into 2 external examinations and 1 internal non-examination assessment of spoken language. Paper 1 will focus on explorations in creative reading and writing. This paper is split into 2 sections. Section A will focus on reading, where you will read 1 piece of non-fiction text and answer 4 questions based on what you've read. Section B tests your writing skills, the focus being either descriptive writing or narrative writing. You will have a choice of 2 questions. The paper is 1 hour and 45 minutes in length and is worth 80 marks and makes up 50% of your GCSE. The second paper, paper 2, will focus on writers' viewpoints and perspectives. Once again, like paper 1, this paper is split into 2 sections. Section A will focus on your reading skills, whilst Section B will focus on your writing. However, this time you will be required to focus on 2 texts. 1 is non-fiction, 1 is fiction. The key skills will now include comparison. The writing section will only have 1 question. You do not get a choice this time. This time you will need to write to present a viewpoint, preferably your own. Like paper 1, this paper is also 1 hour and 45 minutes, worth 80 marks and makes up the final 50% of your English GCSE. Finally, you'll be required to complete the non-examination assessment. This part of your GCSE will showcase your ability to present a topic of your choice and respond to questions and feedback. This, as you can see, holds 0 weight but must be completed as part of your English course. This is marked by your teacher and completed in small groups within your classroom. There is a requirement for this to be recorded. We also offer entry-level Step Up to English for those students who may struggle to achieve a Grade 1 at GCSE. As you can see, the structure of entry-level is very similar to GCSE, especially as there are 2 exam papers externally set. We offer both silver or gold steps for entry-level. Component 1, Literacy Topics, is very similar to Paper 2 GCSE and the spoken endorsement. Component 2 will focus on creative reading and writing. This is very similar to Paper 1 at GCSE.
Language Paper 1. In the language section of the course, you'll have 2 exams. The first paper focuses on creative writing and reading and writing. Section 1 is focused on reading a source and extracting and inferring information from it. You'll then complete a piece of writing based on a source you were given, for example, a picture. The reading and creative writing skills you have been practicing throughout your lessons and modules in Key Stage 3 will give you a head start to prepare for this paper. In Language Paper 2 has focused on writers' viewpoints and perspectives. The first section is reading and looks at interpreting and comparing two sources. Then for the writing section, you'll create a piece of non-fiction writing. Again, we have been building these skills throughout Key Stage 3, particularly in the Year 8 writing with purpose topic.
Speaking. Another section that makes up the GCSE is your speaking exam. In this, you'll prepare and perform a persuasive speech, trying to convince your audience to agree with you. You have practiced the skills for this in the power of the spoken word topic in Year 9 and the writing with purpose topic in Year 8.
English literature is a separate GCSE but must be taken alongside the English GCSE. This exam is split into two papers, but unlike the English language GCSE, these papers are not equally weighted. Paper 1 will focus on Shakespeare and the 19th century novel and is split into two sections. Section A is Shakespeare. We prefer to study Macbeth. Section B, however, is the 19th century novel. We have a selection of 19th century novels that we teach. You will study one, either Frankenstein or The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or A Christmas Carol or A Sign of Fall. This is a written exam. It lasts 1 hour and 45 minutes and is worth 64 marks and 40% of your English literature exam.
In this unit, you study a 19th century novel. This section of the exam will use some of the ideas you'll remember from the horror unit in Year 7, the Gothic unit in Year 8, and build them from the skills you looked at in Year 9 when studying the 19th century literature. Christmas Carol. Another popular choice for the 19th century novel is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Though London awaits the joyful arrival of Christmas, miserly Ebenezer Scrooge thinks it's all humbug, berating his faithful clerk and cheerful nephew for their view. Later, Scrooge encounters the ghost of his late business partner, who warns that three spirits will visit him this night. The ghost takes Scrooge on a journey through his past, present and future in the hope of transforming his bitterness. If you like stories with a clear, strong message and a Christmas setting, you will enjoy this novel. Jekyll and Hyde. A second option for the 19th century novel is The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. Jekyll and Hyde is a narrative about the complexities of science and the duplicity of human nature. Dr. Jekyll is a kind, well-respected and intelligent scientist who meddles with the darker side of science, and he wants to bring out his second nature. If you like mysteries and scientific experiments, you might enjoy reading this. Frankenstein. We look at Frankenstein by Mary Shelley as one of the possible choices for the 19th century novel. Frankenstein tells the story of a gifted scientist, Victor Frankenstein, who succeeds in giving the life to a being of his own creation. However, this is not the perfect specimen he imagined that it will be, but rather a hideous creature who is rejected by Victor and mankind in general. If you're interested in science fiction or stories with a focus on nature versus mankind, you'll like this one. A Sign of 4. Another 19th century novel choice is A Sign of 4 by Arthur Conan Doyle. In A Sign of 4, Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson unravel a mystery of hidden treasure and murder. Miss Mary Marston arrives at 221B Baker Street to request help with the mystery of her missing father, her anonymous gifts of pearls and a letter requesting her to meet an unknown person that evening. Holmes takes on her case and the adventure begins.
For our Shakespeare unit, all the classes study Macbeth. In the play, three witches tell the Scottish general Macbeth that he will be King of Scotland. Encouraged by his wife, Macbeth kills the king, becomes the new king, and kills more people out of paranoia. Civil war erupts to overthrow Macbeth, resulting in more deaths. If you like plays with lots of drama, betrayal, and the supernatural, Macbeth is something that will suit your taste. You will have begun to practice your skills in understanding and responding to Shakespeare's work in your Year 9 Shakespearean tragedy topic.
Paper 2, however, will focus on modern texts and poetry. It is split into three sections. Section A, a modern prose or drama text, either Lord of the Flies or An Inspector Calls. We have sometimes used DNA. Section B will focus on poetry, especially the poetry anthology, Power and Conflict. Section C will focus on unseen poetry. Once again, this is a written exam. This time, however, it lasts 2 hours and 15 minutes, is worth 96 marks, and it makes up 60% of your literature GCSE.
Poetry is in the exams in two forms. The first is Power and Conflict Anthology. You will have begun looking at these poems in Year 9 and will continue to come back to them throughout your course. This anthology includes poems as Checking Out the History by John Agard and an extract from The Prelude by William Wordsworth. The second way we look at poetry is through the unseen poem. This involves analysing and writing about a poem that you will not see until the exam. You have built up your skills at analysing poetry in topics in Year 7, 8 and 9.
Modern novel. The modern novels we look at all have a focus on the way in which people in society treat one another, and what happens when people create a power imbalance in society. Studying one of these texts will build on the skills you learn when studying poverty and luxury in Year 7, the modern novel in Year 7 and 8, and studying of Mice and Men in Year 9. And Inspector Calls. One choice for the modern novel is An Inspector Calls by James B. Priestley. In the play, the unsuspecting Burling family are visited by the mysterious Inspector Gould. He arrives just as they are celebrating the engagement of Sheila Burling to Gerald Croft. The inspector reveals that a girl called Eva Smith has taken her own life by drinking disinfectant. The family are horrified but initially confused as to why the inspector is called to see them. What follows is a tense and uncomfortable investigation by an all-knowing inspector, through which the family discover that they are all in fact caught up in this poor girl's death. With lots of twists and turns, if you like detective stories, this play might interest you. Lord of the Flies. Another choice is Lord of the Flies by William Golding. Lord of the Flies is set on a remote island and shows how a group of stranded schoolboys go from civilization to savagery in a very short space of time. Although their situation at first seems to have the markings of a fun adventure, their fight to survive in their environment and their struggle with each other for power reveals the wickedness which lives inside all of us. If you like stories with a focus on adventure and struggles with social hierarchy, you'll enjoy studying this text.
Now that we've gone through most of the criteria and expectations for both English language and literature for GCSE, I just thought I'd go through some of the top tips that you may want to consider throughout the next 2 years. So I'm going to start with, how can you revise English language and English literature? Some people say that we can't revise it. This is not true. Use your notes from class and homeworks. Revisit these often. Read your literature texts at least 3 times. This includes the novels. Keep on top of the work. Create a timetable and find the right place to work, preferably away from distractions. Ask for help if you're unsure of anything or need direction to resources. You will find your own way of revising, so you need to create resources to enable your style of learning. For example, flashcards, post-its, mind maps, and the list goes on. Use online sites to help you too. YouTube, Mr. Bruff is one of my go-to, and Seneca Learning, lit charts from the creators of SparkNotes, getrevising.co.uk, BBC Bitesize and GCSE pods. There are lots more out there, so get looking now. Don't just rely on the internet or apps. Try to revise away from technology or social media. Use other forms of revision aids, your notes, revision guides, peers, teachers, parents. Condense your notes into manageable chunks. Revise your weakest topic first, but don't leave out the topics you feel more confident about. The more you revisit a topic, the more embedded the knowledge becomes, and the more embedded the knowledge becomes, the easier it is to recall it when needed. Complete past papers and either check against mark schemes or ask your teacher to mark it for you. And this final section is for you, the parents. How can you support your child? You can do this by helping, checking and encouraging, something I know you already do. Check your child is up to date with all tasks. Keeping on top of revision lessens the pressure. Check Insight for work set and tally this against your child's work. With English literature, the expectation is for all students to read the texts at least 3 times. Encourage your child to read the texts and to read around the subject and context. Encourage your child to review notes taken and to revise regularly. Also, encourage your child to work through past papers and to check through answers, preferably against the mark scheme. Remind them to check spelling, punctuation and grammar. Help your child to create a revision timetable that is manageable and realistic. English has 2 exams, so time should be allotted for each subject, English language and English literature. Encourage your child to use online resources as well as textbooks, GCSE pods, BBC Bite Size, Lit Charts, Seneca Learning and YouTube. Once again, Mr. Bruff is exceptionally good, but there are others. However, not all great revision needs to be completed online. Encourage them to step away from the computer or device and work from notes. Encourage your child to work through revision guides regularly. Encourage your child to watch or read the news online, as well as encouraging them to read a wide variety of books. Ask them what they're reading or what they have learned in class. Directing your child to ask for help from the class teacher is also a great way to help with revision. Hopefully, intervention and drop-in sessions will start again soon, but there are other ways to get support. Online platforms like Teams is a great way to encourage peer learning. And finally, remember to use R. Revisit, review, revise, reflect, request help if you need it. Thank you for your time and good luck.